Dig which everyone could and welcome back to episode number 123 on the Trois of the Inline G Flute podcast with me, your host, motherfucking Inline G. We are back, baby, with another guest episode, an actual live guest that I can get up close and smell. I think this might be one of my favorite ever guest episodes on the podcast, so I'm going to speed run this intro just so you guys get into that episode as soon as possible. This week's guest is Inline G's first ever conductor. I really am spoiling you lot rotten. And it's not just any conductor. It is the chief conductor of the WDR Funkhausorchester here in beautiful Cologne and the former conductor of the RTE Concert Orchestra in even more beautiful Dublin, meaning it's another Irish musician working over here in Cologne. How could I miss this opportunity? It is, of course, the one and the only Mr. David Brophy. I love getting Irish guests on the podcast. They make my life as a host so much easier. We are superb, wonderful, natural shite talkers. Now, I'm not going to sit here and wax lyrical about all the things David has done in his career. You can do that. That's what Google is for. That's what ChatGPT is even for. Go and check all that out. But especially for the Irish people amongst you, he'll be no stranger to you. He's even been on the Tommy Tiernan show, for fuck's sake. So regular listeners, you know the crack here. Skip ahead a minute or two. But if you're new to the Inline G podcast, please just give me your ears. Let me borrow your lovely ears for a minute or two. The Inline G podcast is free and will always be free. That is a motherfucking guarantee. But if you wish to donate to the podcast, you can now do so through the Patreon. On the screen now is the address. And for the audio listeners, it is patreon.com/the Inline G Flute podcast. The link is also in the description. It costs €5 a month, guys, and with that, you're keeping this podcast alive. I do everything around here on my own. Graphic design, video design, production, sound production, script writing, everything. This is the definition of a small, independent podcast. It is a labor of love, and I love it with all my heart. But it is a fuckload of work sometimes. Now, we do not have sponsors in Inline G because anytime a sponsor tries to come on, they try to say, you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't talk about politics, you can't do this. They can go fuck themselves. I'm not giving up any degree of creative control over this podcast. So you, the listener, can pay for it instead. You're paying for me for my work as an artist, which in 2025 is a rare fucking thing. We are the biggest flute podcast in the world, and we are 100% listener funded. That is so fucking rock and roll. All this equipment here that you see, all the journeys, all the trains I've been getting, you guys have paid for that. You're keeping the quality of this podcast up, and it's about to get higher. So if you can afford to sign up to the Patreon, please do. You can even sign up for 1 month and then just unsubscribe directly and give me the $5. It's the price of a pint. Not even. You wouldn't even get a pint for a $5 these days. There's an episode of this podcast every single Friday for the last 123 weeks. And we'll keep doing it, baby. So if you can afford to sign up, please do. It means the fucking world to me. But if you can't afford it, don't worry about it. You can keep listening for free. Someone who can't afford it is paying so that you don't have to. It is a system based on lovely soundness and lovely kindness, Grma. So, here is this week's Inline G Flute podcast with the one and very much the only David Brophy. See, I'm glad to see that as well because obviously you do see Irish pieces popping up with orchestras over here, but with non-Irish conductors it would be, and I want to use the word carefully here, but I want to say a bit plastic patty. You know, so it's nice
Irish, OIRISH, Irish, yeah, the Shake of Shamrock.
Yeah,
Irish, yeah.
I've never heard that one before. So it's nice to see, like,
there's a place for that.
There is.
That's all right. We're okay.
But as an Irish person living here, I would like to see some actual. It'd be a nice treat for me to see some genuine Irish music or some genuine Irish-inspired art popping up in the city.
Yeah.
So it's all on your shoulders, then I think.
No pressure, bro, for anything like you know.
And so you're obviously I'll do an introduction obviously for this podcast. Okay. It'll be a glowing introduction. It'll be wonderful.
Don't do a glowing introduction.
But for those that might, because a lot of the audience here is American, so obviously you're not conducting with the WDR Funkhausorchester. Can you describe a little bit about who they are as an orchestra?
So the WDR Funkhausorchester, they kind of exist in a very specific space in the broader global orchestral environment, let's put it like that, where they're in an organization, WDR Westdeutscher Rundfunk, and where there's another orchestra, it's a symphony orchestra.
Yes.
And they, in order to define the two orchestras, and this would be the same with BBC, of the BBC Concert Orchestra, BBC Symphony Orchestra, and the same in RTE in Ireland. We'd have what was the RT National Symphony Orchestra is now just the National Symphony Orchestra, and then the RT Concert Orchestra. They exist to play music that's not necessarily classical, mainstream classical music, but they exist to play kind of everything else.
Yeah.
So we can work with jazzers and rockers and trad heads and rappers, and that's kind of our life.
Yeah.
And so that's really here in Cologne, that's their function.
Yeah.
And as a result, they kind of play in a way that they have to have kind of open minds and open hearts to styles of music and ways of playing that are not necessarily, a lot of them maybe weren't necessarily trained exactly to do that, but they have in their heart, they can feel something that maybe a symphony orchestra doesn't in the same way.
Yeah, well, it's obviously different. But that's something I'm always so curious about is, as a conductor, what qualities are you looking for in your players with that kind of orchestra?
You are looking now here. I'm reliably informed with the Funkhausorchester here is that they have to, in their application, they have to state why they want to join the orchestra. So there is a kind of a it's not just, well, I have nothing else to do with my life. Yeah.
I mean,
so this is the only
if bottom of the barrel is joining this orchestra, you've had an all right life.
Kind of, yeah. And so so they have to kind of say, well, look, they have to talk about like what is it about the way the orchestra plays and the repertoire we play and that kind of thing. And it kind of sounds straightforward, but actually it's not straightforward. Okay. Because you end up with a huge amount of players in front of you who actually don't do a lot of the things they were trying to do. Because obviously the techniques you need to play, let's say, Beethoven, Mozart, and even further to, Mahler and Shostakovich and contemporary music, you could go for months and months and months and not use those techniques. True. So there's very true. It's so to be a chief conductor in this environment you kind of have to acknowledge there's a duty of care to the players to also at some stage in the year give them something to get their teeth into so they can it's like a diet. Yeah. So if you've got kids growing up and you give them pizza and pasta all the time, they will eventually turn into a certain type of person. Yes. But if you give them broccoli and kale and other things, and they will and pizza on a Friday, it's just a different kind of diet. So we tried to, and it's not easy.
So you'll deliberately pick your rep as well for the player's benefit, not just for the audience benefit.
The thing is, it's like hygiene, So you have to give them something so they can operate. Yeah. Okay. And also, and like this maybe is a thing that everyone thinks you play in an orchestra and you like all the music. I don't like all the music I can do.
You couldn't like all that music.
You can't like all the music.
This is so vast.
So there's times during the year when they go, God, this is really not my thing.
That must be the way, but that's normal, isn't it?
And that's normal in every orchestra. But then you try to give them, okay, we're going to try and give you something that is your thing. Yeah, okay. For this week or these 2 weeks here in the year. You know? So it's a tricky balancing act with an orchestra like this in a way that if you have a symphony orchestra, it's just a lot more straightforward because we know what they play. The audience knows what they want. There's a central core repertoire. We go back to that and we do a little bit of contemporary music and we do blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, but this is just a little bit more, because the playing area is so wide.
And it gets wider though, doesn't it? That's the thing. Because if you're playing this orchestra for a couple of years,
it kind of never ends.
Yeah, because like if something else comes into fashion or a certain type of music comes into fashion, you guys are the first ones up to do it. Like rap, for example, you mentioned rap there. Deutsche rap is massive at the minute, and you guys I've seen the WDR Funkhausorchester do so many projects with rappers, and maybe 15 years ago that wouldn't have been the case. No. And I don't know what the next thing's going to be, but there's going to be something coming along in the next year or two that you guys are going to have to get stuck into.
But we're always looking at, and the audience has changed now. It's always changing and it's morphing. Yeah. I mean, obviously, the fact there's a podcast audience that didn't exist now. Yeah, that's 15, 20 years ago, you know. So what are we going to do? Do we just do what we did like 30 years ago? No, you have to move to change, And if we're like sharks. If the shark stops moving, it stops moving, it dies, So we've got to keep moving too, So
shark anatomy isn't great, but word for
it. So we got to keep moving too, and I think
that's exciting as well. Isn't that fun?
Well, otherwise, what's the point to all of this? I'm not interested. So I'm, the sense of curiosity walking into rehearsal with open minds. I think that's a key element of what this orchestra does and what it brings to it. And then on top of that, they bring their immense skills as musicians. And
To be fair, I have to say, you know this already, but your orchestra, you're so blessed with the players you have here, man.
Yeah.
They are so good.
We've
they are stupidly good, this orchestra.
We're very lucky. We've got very good players, So I think all that together hopefully creates a combination and a recipe where we can be a space that people who don't go to a symphony orchestra kind of go, well, I can engage your orchestral music. And I remember years ago, if you think like, there's always there are always the voices, why do we need the orchestra?
Man, every few years that comes up, yeah.
It always comes up, and you kind of go, well, hold on, let's have a day where across the whole world, every time an orchestra will be normally heard, we just hear silence. So in every movie you go to for one day in the year, we take all the orchestra sounds off, and we take every time you put the radio on, and the orchestra that plays to introduce the news. Yeah. The little sting for 10 seconds. Yeah. We just have silence there as well. Yeah. We just have silence instead of all the orchestra, and see how we all get on with that, because you'll all know how often you'll realize you miss it. Yeah. Everyone hears an orchestra every day at some stage, more often than not.
True.
And they don't necessarily realize, and we take it for granted. So I think that message, that what we do, it's not, I'm not here saying it's important. It's not important. There's other things that are important, like world peace and everything that's going on in the world at the moment. That's important. But nevertheless, this gives people something that really without it they would not have. And that's a basic message that we all have, I think.
Do you view I'm trying to word this in the right way, but do you view an orchestra like this as almost a gateway drug into classical music?
No, I don't think so. I like that gateway.
Is it like a soft entry? Is it like a hash brownie to get into classical music?
I don't think so. I think if we did concerts where we did everything from David Bowie to Stockhausen, maybe then. I think maybe, but I don't think we're going to do a concert of music by Deutsche Rap or ABBA, and then everyone's going to go, I really want to hear Mahler 5. I don't think it's going to. I'm not naive that way, and I actually don't think. I think like. We tend to sometimes, as classical musicians, because we have this thing called outreach, and we try to reach out to people, that actually rockers and jazzers and trad people don't do. They just play their music, and if you don't want to come, don't come along. Yeah. So maybe a bit more of that swagger from our energy might be okay. So I'm very much. If you don't like Mahler 5, that's cool.
That's grand. Yeah.
That's completely cool. Don't like it actually, and enjoy yourself not liking it.
Yeah, exactly. What I mean? That's true. Get comfortable with it. That's completely fine,
and be comfortable with it. But I think you're missing out on something. So I don't see us as being I think we're a different thing, and I think in a weird way we are unique. And I think there's a few of us, like the Funkhouse Orchestra, the BBC Concert Orchestra, the RT Concert Orchestra, the Metropole Orchestra. There's a few of us in Europe who are unique creatures and animals.
I love that.
Who are doing nothing that the other orchestras are doing. Yeah. And there are vast swathes of hundreds of other orchestras who are doing the same thing, but we're not. Yeah. And that,
But you're doing everything else.
We're doing everything else, yeah.
Which is so much fun. Do you find, like, obviously you've conducted the RT Concert Orchestra for a long time, you said similar orchestra. Do you find a big difference between the sort of, I want to say the musical tradition or the culture between Ireland and Germany in that sphere?
No, I think there's if we believe that music is universal language, then it's universal language. And I think the language that I speak here, with my really, really bad German.
How are you getting on with the German, by the way?
Yeah, it's sehr schlecht.
Yeah.
How many different ways can you say "the"?
Don't even. Honestly, take my advice on it. Pick one and just stick with it. You'll be right 33% of the time.
I've kind of gone that way, But if we regard music as a universal language, which we do, well, then they all I think musicians here are the same as in Dublin, Yeah. And they're the same as
really, you're finding that, in
London, and they're the same as the ones at Atlanta Symphony Orchestra 3 years ago, and they're just musicians. They're musicians, And I just think, but the thing is, I completely love musicians. I love working musicians, and I love the group and the dynamic of them. Yeah. And I love how weird and wonderful and ridiculous it is to meet myself and like 60 or 50 other people.
Yeah, who are like-minded.
Who just to put all this madness together and play music together.
They are mad. They really are mad. Like even when you go. Like I told you, there's a pub around here. I popped to it when the orchestra goes. Any orchestra comes into town, they're drinking there afterwards. You can spot orchestral musicians a mile off. Yeah. Not even with the instruments. There's a vibe about them. There's something about them, which, don't get me wrong, not always mad about.
No, it's mental. It's great. I love it. It's like it's all like that old traditional song. All God's creatures got a bass in the choir. Some sing low and some sing high. Some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. That's an old traditional song, and that song I think is like orchestras. All God's creatures got a place in the choir.
Yeah.
Everybody has a place in the orchestra somewhere, and you get all these amazing people who are highly skilled. We're all probably somewhere on the spectrum, somewhere all of us are, and we meet and play music together and try and get on, and we all generally do get on very well, and it's generally, wonderful.
I mean, it must be like you're the first conductor I've had on the podcast as well, so there's so many things I want to ask as well about that, and I asked David a little bit about David Tobin about being like a concert master in that role, but it is hard to manage all those people. I sort of, in my head, I compared it a little bit to a football team, where you've got these stars and you've got egos to manage and you've got people that have different needs and different wants, different expectations, and sort of managing all that and keeping everyone on side, that must be hard.
I suppose I don't go in on that with that in my head, because I think if you go into the rehearsal with that in your head, that's what you're focusing on, so at the end of the day, you just really are there for the music.
Yeah.
And that's really what they want, is they want to just do the music really well.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like a football team. You never meet a football team who wants to play badly.
No, that's true.
And you never meet an orchestra who wants to play badly either. So
no.
all they want to do is play well. That's all. So your job is to make them play well and serve the music. And that's, it distills down to that.
It does.
And you can, obviously, there's a part of you, there's a percentage of your mind that does kind of think about, okay, how are they all coping with this madness?
Yeah.
And you see something going, sweet Lord of God, I can't take any more of this.
Yeah.
And like people are going, this is the best fun I'm having all my entire life today.
Exactly, yeah.
And everything, all the differences between that is what you get as well. So
that's difficult to manage.
I would say I'm aware of it.
Okay.
And then there's a collective tipping point where I feel like, and I do that, and I put my finger up in the room and say, what's the air like? Okay, so they need a break.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, okay, let's take a pause now. And but beyond that, you really need to focus on the music and on making them sound the best they possibly can.
Yeah.
And they are the two simple things.
Because that's also rewarding for them as well, isn't it? They want to be good at it. Like, these musicians are incredibly driven and pushing themselves.
And it's ultimately...
There's a bit of ego in there as well. They want to be the best.
They have to be ego. You can't, if you don't have ego, you can't get out of bed in the morning. The ego is just basically a sense of yourself and who you are. So they have to have egos. And they're all high functioning. Seriously high functioning.
I know, it's incredible.
And it's quite extraordinary to be in the room with, but I do think, you look at, you draw a parallel with football teams. I kind of think about, if you look at, say, managing hospitals, where you've got an awful lot of very high functioning, intelligent people who are like consultants and surgeons and nurses and doctors in a hospital, who are all really highly intelligent, very highly functioning. Managing them is not easy because they're high functioning. Yeah, because they're brilliant at what they do, because they're all brilliant. Yeah. So it's a bit like that, I'd say, because everyone in front of me is really brilliant at what they do. So it's trying to find a way of, let's take all this collective brilliance and turn it into something that, as a whole, can connect to our audience, and they understand. They're going to go, wow, that's an amazing thing.
See, even that, just when you said, so I'm just back from Ireland. Actually, I was in Galway over the weekend with the GAA team actually here.
Wow.
There's a hurling team in Cologne.
There's a hurling team in Cologne.
There is,
there recently,
The Cologne Celtics, Celtics. We were down in Galway playing a team. We didn't do very well, I'm not going to lie, but we had a good weekend. But anyway, I was sitting there one night, I was chatting away to a couple of people. I was saying I was going to interview you, and they were asking about it. I said, there's an Irish conductor in Cologne. And someone brings up, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but someone was like, what does a conductor even do? They're not just wave their hands about. And I'm trying to do my best to explain it, but I'm thinking, do you know what? I'm going to wait until I'm on the podcast. I'm going to ask a conductor that. So if someone, I'm sure you've heard that argument before, haven't you?
Yeah.
So you just touched on that. Number one is managing, or not managing, but controlling the general feeling of the room and directing that. There's emotion and ego and all those things to manage. But what else?
Ultimately, I don't know what the conductor does.
Great, thank you.
And it's kind of the best place. I've come to the conclusion it's the best place to start.
Okay.
Because first of all, when you look at all the pedagogy and teaching that goes on in music, so we kind of have an idea how we should teach the violin. Yeah. Or teach the piano, or teach someone to play the flute, or teach someone to play the baron or the banjo. Mm-hmm. But how do you teach someone to conduct? It's like... And I teach conducting at TUD in Dublin, and it's really, really, really difficult. And I went for lessons, and all of my conducting lessons back when I was in my 20s were uniformly pretty poor.
So what are you learning in conducting lessons?
So how do I define this thing where you, like, I always equated, like, when my kids were smaller, like, let's say when they were in school and the teacher would ask, oh, what does your daddy do for a living? And some say, well, my daddy's a postman.
Yeah.
Right, so what's a postman do? Well, he just takes letters from here and he brings them to wherever they're going to be delivered. You know, that makes total sense to me. You know, like, yeah. And what does your daddy do? Well, my daddy, he's a chef. So what does he do? Well, he makes food for people and they spend money and they get the okay. What does your daddy do? He's a conductor. What does he do? He waves his arm around in front of musicians and they play music.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
Like, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Now, the old style, so we go back to, you know, Jean-Baptiste Lully.
Yeah.
Regarded as the first conductor. And when he had an actual function, take the big stick, the staff, hit the ground with it to keep everyone in time because the orchestra were getting bigger. So we couldn't really keep, it was much more difficult to keep things there. That's a real function, keep it in time.
Yeah.
So let's start there. I know I have to do that.
Okay.
I don't make an audible sound the way Lully did.
Yeah, but you have to keep the time.
But I keep the time.
There, that's good.
On that basis, I can begin.
Yeah.
So that's the bedrock.
Okay.
So let's keep them together. That's the first thing, right? And then after that, then let's hope, okay, obviously ensure they play the right notes.
Yeah.
And they play the right articulation and play loud and soft in the right place. And then play, hopefully it's in tune. And then the balance with all the parts, because it's kind of complex. You look at an orchestral score.
It's incredibly complex.
So let's try and make sure we can hear everything in some way. What should come to the foreground? What should be more in the background? How to balance everything. And let's say we've got all that stuff. That's the basic stuff. And then there's the other stuff. Okay, well, what does the music mean? This is the hard stuff. So you open a piece of music. What does it mean? What are we trying to express here? And that's the bit that takes them beyond just the notes. Yeah. That gets into a realm. Then if that starts to happen, you go, oh, and it really feels special. Yeah. And you have to do that in a way that is both dictatorial, because holding a stick is dictatorial. Yeah. This is where the beat is, unfortunately, guys. So you can't play anywhere else except there. Yeah. But at the same time, still don't suffocate them and allow them to play. Well, that's always because they have a kind of a sense of it themselves. Well, they're all feeling. So they're all feeling something as well. So it's that kind of fine line between doing it, giving it, making it happen, and then also letting them do it themselves, because they can do a lot of it themselves as well. Yeah. So when I stop conducting, they can play. They keep playing. That's so I'm not. So it's like, so here's the closest I've gotten to it now. Having said that, I don't know what it is. I do think it's a little bit like horse riding. Okay. So my dad's a big kind of horse racing kind of fan. Okay. And there's a really great documentary on Mick Cannan, who was a great flat jockey, Irish flat jockey. It was made when he retired, maybe about 6-7 years ago, I'd say, just before the pandemic. And you listen to him talk about being on a horse, and on a given day, he goes into a race, and the horse is favourite. Yeah. And there's 12 horses in the race, and they start the race off, and the horse knows that it's a special day, whatever way horse processes crowds and everything going on, you know. So that he feels the horse wanting to go, and he just has to hold on to the horse. Not yet. And that sensation of maybe with 2 or 3 furlongs out, and the horse is maybe midfield, that he just starts gently, I'm talking about millimeters, just letting go of the reins, and the horse starts to glide and go forward faster. Yeah. Okay. Now that's the closest I can get to what conducting feels like. It's a feel. And I genuinely feel, I don't believe it can be fully taught, but I think you can learn how to conduct by being in front of an orchestra, because I learn how to conduct by listening to the Funkhausorchester. Yeah. I learn how to conduct for them in every relationship. Like, we're only, if you look at medicine, go back to medicine now. So we're only getting to the point now we're kind of going, okay, so what we thought was somebody come in and they had these are the ailments, 4 different ailments. This is what we're going to prescribe. Yeah. Nowadays we're thinking, okay, so these are the 4 ailments, but actually this body is made up differently to that body to make up that. So we're now looking at medicine in a more individualistic way. So we're now eventually going to put a chip inside us that's going to work out what our heartbeat is, what our pulse rate is, what our blood pressure is going to be, and lots of other things. And it's going to come up with, here's the blueprint of this human being. Yeah. And therefore we can actually have a unique diagnosis of this one person. And I kind of think conducting is a bit like that, where every orchestra I go in front of, I conduct slightly differently. Yeah. And they kind of educate me how to work with them. Yeah. So it's a two-way relationship, in the way that a jockey and a horse, the jockey learns as much about the horse as the horse learns about the jockey. And so the relationship, if it's about, if you look at the word relationship and it's relay is back and forth. So if I go up and I'm, old-fashioned conductor, which is just me, dictatorial, top-down, head man,
hierarchy. Yeah.
I can't work that way. So I sometimes I go, if I put my stick down that, what sound do they make? And if I do that, what sound do they make? Well, it's almost like another way of describing it. Imagine if you're a child and you're 5 years of age and it's Christmas morning and Santa Claus has come and you go down and you open the toys up and there's no instructions for any of the toys. So what do? You're 5. You start pressing buttons and pulling levers and doing but that's what you do. You just hit things. But the toy teaches you how to use the toy.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's what like conducting.
So you just go in and just
you go in and kind of go, if you really listen to what they do and the sound they make when you put the stick down or when you look at them or do something and say, this is how this orchestra works. This is how they work. That's like playing a piano. You go to every piano, there's a piano over there. You can sit down on piano and every single note would feel differently on that piano.
Yes, true,
piano, so you get used to the piano.
But it's even more complicated with an orchestra because you're dealing with really individual people as well.
Yeah, that's what's great.
And incredibly artistic people as well, and talented people.
But that's what's great about it.
So much fun.
For me, every day, like it's a school day, it's about discovery. And I think also we're very, in our world today, we're very kind of didactic in terms of we know this and we know this and we know this and this is what we know and this is the truth, what is the truth and the untruth and the false truths and the fake truth.
Fluidity of truth,
and the truth, So I kind of feel, wouldn't it be great to go in and live the day knowing nothing and start again?
Yeah.
So I'm a great believer in, obviously you go and learn to conduct, but then unlearning to conduct is actually a very vital part of the process. So I think I'm at that point in my life now where I'm unlearning to conduct.
Okay.
How do I unlearn everything I have and just be the person who they need me to be?
Yeah.
And that's a kind of a philosophical thing that's going to engage me certainly for the next 10 years.
That's it. Have you ever conducted a youth orchestra, by the way? Just when I'm thinking
Actually, weirdly, I'm doing my very first youth orchestra concert with the National Youth Orchestra of Ireland this
Oh, really? Okay.
January, yes.
So you've never done it before?
I've never worked with the National Youth Orchestra
Because this is
of
something I'm
Ireland.
very curious about what's going to be different with that. Just when you're saying about this, because I feel like it's going to be a totally different flavour then, isn't it?
Yeah, they are. But every orchestra you get in front of, they all feel different. The NSO in Dublin feel differently to the RT Concert Orchestra, feel differently to the Ulster Orchestra.
I love the way you use the word feel different as well.
They feel it. It's you can feel it. It's a kind of a tactile thing. I feel it in my hand, my bones, and my skin. I feel it when the stick goes down. Oh, that feels a certain way. Because when I do that, that means the bow moves a certain way, or the speed of the air goes through a tube in the wind and the brass. I can feel it. You hear it, and every time you hear it, you feel it. And so there's that kind of, there is a feeling to it.
There is, yeah.
And they feel different under your hands, and you kind of go, right, I've got to use a different set of tools this week to get the things I'm looking for,
Yeah. I do want to ask you a lot in general, actually, about the difference between sort of the orchestral tradition in Ireland and in Germany. The one that comes to my mind, actually, I think is there like a cultural difference between, because like obviously Germany has this huge orchestral tradition that really precedes it. Does that play into your thinking when you come over here? You sort of, overwhelm's not the right word, but are you aware of that tradition that comes before you that maybe we don't have in Ireland?
I have to say, if it's something I should be aware of from the perspective of German people looking at me, I haven't felt in any way, you don't know our tradition at all here. I've been very, very open, very respectful.
Yeah.
And it does go back to that, like years ago, I'd kind of go, oh God, like we don't have a traditional classical music in Ireland, but like.
Oh, we do.
But we do.
We do.
Actually, And, we are, Dublin is a city in which, the very first performance of the Messiah happened.
True. The Messiah was the first time in Dublin, that's right.
Yeah.
Because you can see the chair the handle sat on, can't you? Or someone sat on in one of the museums.
I think there's something like that.
There's something like that, yeah. Anyway.
And so like you kind of, so you go, and Solomon, who brought Haydn to London, he played in the Rotunda in the 1790s in Dublin. And so,
class. I didn't know that.
There's a lot of, especially the 18th century, Dublin was the second city of the empire in the 18th century. It was, before certainly Glasgow and other cities came up in the empire. So I kind of feel we do have that tradition. Also, I kind of think, my granddad was like, my mother's father was like, he would call him a blue collar worker. Yeah. But he would say to me when I was small, he'd say, I love the owl. I love the Chopin military polonaises.
I have never heard that in that accent before, man.
And he would know that music. And he would say, I love that music. And I'm kind of going, here's a working class Dubliner.
Yeah, who knows?
But that's true.
Oh,
I think that's a cultural thing. Well, luckily, the great thing about lockdown, 5 years ago now, was that I actually got to do something I never did in my life, which I read Ulysses.
I was just about to say, when I'm thinking of James Joyce.
You think of James Joyce's Dubliners and Ulysses, and you think the connection of ordinary working class people
to classical art,
with so-called high art. which
Because it's constantly through both books.
Germans would maybe define like Liebhaber und Kenner,
Yeah,
people who love them and people who know
Yeah.
them, And I think that was like that sense of knowing, this sense of like high art and low art, I don't think exists in old Ireland, old Dublin.
I think it exists a bit more now, certainly, but I don't. Yeah, you're
in
right.
certain parts, but I think this kind of egalitarian view of the world, that everything is as worthy as I am, and I am as worthy
as it,
to engage with it as anybody else is.
I'd never thought
that's
about
a
it too much.
beautiful thing, and I think our culturally in Ireland, that's a very kind of special power in a weird way,
I never thought about it. Just when you were saying that as well, my mind instantly went to James Joyce and thought, I think the amount of times I've read James Joyce and it's brought up characters who sing. And they casually sing at parties, and they're doing
James Joyce himself won senior tenor in the Festival. He was a singer himself, and he just all the way through Ulysses, you've got all the quotes of Mozart arias, that constantly all the way through. And obviously Leopold Bloom knows about opera, and Molly Bloom is a singer.
As a singer,
and all the way through. I think there is a thing about classical music and opera, but great poetry and great works of art that Irish people just say, yeah, cool.
It's just,
it's there.
To be fair,
and I do think that maybe the education might have been like the education of the Jesuits that my granddad might have had a very kind of sense, and that old kind of, for want of better terms, Catholic Church education, which was, this is the great, you should learn Latin. These are the great things in the world you should know about. That was a good thing in many ways.
It was,
and I think we still have that culturally embedded in us now, and I think
I think so too.
And I think so if I bring that part of me, I believe that's part of my heritage here. I don't see there being any problem.
That's fantastic, yeah.
And
do you know, even when you're said, I've never even really thought about this, to be honest, but when I don't know how familiar you are with the sort of flute band tradition up north, but I grew up in that tradition, and all our music was, we obviously have the Orange Order and the 12th of July and all those parades and your marches, but we did so many concerts of like Von Suppe overtures or Rossini overtures, all these like light classical stuff, but people were so aware of it, and working class people on the Shankill Road know they could
know
be
all
whistling
that music.
Completely. The Theta Magpie overture.
Yeah, I completely get it. Like I remember I did a Tommy Tiernan show interview over lockdown, and he was making the point, which wasn't invalid, that but the classical music, like they don't have any riffs the way rock music have, and I just went, I went bum 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 bum,
bang in.
Everyone knows it. Every single person. If I sing this bum 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 ba-da-dee, ba-da-dum-dum, everyone knows. They might not know it's Vivaldi,
but they know what the tune
they
is.
know it.
Yeah.
So these tunes, which they are tunes,
they are.
They're everywhere.
That's a great way to view it as well.
I cannot get this sense that the high art and the low art, I never came to music that way at all. So this notion that, this week in Cologne, I'm working on kids' concerts, Sean the Chef.
Shaun the Sheep,
Yeah, Shaun the Sheep. And it's kind of film music and it's kids' music and it's great fun. And then from that, like this Cologne is the home of Stockhausen. Why can't you listen to Stockhausen and listen to Sean the Chef in one day and accept them for what they are?
They're just music
as a metaphor for the world in which we live in, where we're all trying to think in a very binary way.
Yeah.
Left, right, blue, red, good, bad.
Well, there's obviously a comfort in that for a lot of people.
Why don't we just open ourselves
to
this is the way the world is? And isn't it so extraordinary that we've got such ways of expressing ourselves through music in so many different ways?
And not everyone's going to like it, that's grand.
And that's fine.
Yeah, that's part of the charm of it. I love the way you even describe it as tunes. I get a huge sense of comfort when I think of a classical piece of music as a tune. I think I learned a lot about myself as a musician when I was studying in Cardiff. I started an Irish band on the side. I'd never played folk music in my life. I'm from a Protestant background. But we started one, it was 3 of us, just to play in the pubs and clubs, a few quid at the weekend. And the amount I learned from just realising I can go on stage in a pub, and I used to memorise the sets and think, oh fuck, I'm going to get this note wrong, I'm going to get that wrong. Nobody gives a shite. Nobody's ever went in the pub, excuse me, it's actually an F sharp in bar 14 there. Nobody gives a bollocks. I mean, you realise that you're like, man, why can I not just take that attitude and play Prokofiev with the same thing?
Absolutely.
And when you do that, you're like, it's just a tune.
Yeah.
It's just music. I mean, even the word tune makes me instantly relaxed. And that's something I love in Ireland as well. It's just that idea of tunes. You go, oh yeah, if it's a tune, I can play a tune. I'm playing loads of tunes.
But I do think, let's go back to the Funkhausorchester, but I do think if we bring back and play in inverted commas classical music, whatever the hell that is,
exactly.
If we play that music with the Funkhausorchester, they play that music through the filter of everything else they've played in the year.
Which must be such a fresh way of.
Absolutely, they just engage with it the way it is. So they bring that open-mindedness to.
I love that.
Which for me is easier because it's like, how do I say? They don't have their way of playing Mendelssohn. this is the way you play Mendelssohn.
Yeah.
So I don't have to persuade them if I'm going to do something a little bit kooky or a bit strange.
Yeah.
I say, well, why don't we just do you know we normally do that? Let's not do that balance. Or you know that's normally played off the string. Let's play it on the string.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
They're
they
totally
kind of
grand with
go, okay, this is just the way it is. Let's
Yeah.
just go, let's run with it. And they go, yeah, okay, we can sell. And they can almost sell anything as a result.
Yeah.
And that's that flexibility is what I love and it's what I need.
And that's
in
fun
my
as well.
life.
Like, keeps
It's the
things
fun.
alive.
Exactly, yeah. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very philosophical question to bring into the podcast. How are you finding the audience over here for your concerts?
They're so warm. I don't know what they make of me. Like I said to somebody recently, like when I'm in Dublin, or even when I'm in Belfast with the Ulster Orchestra, I'm kind of I'm just ordinary, you know. I'm a Dubliner,
Yeah.
and I'm in front of the RT Concert Orchestra in Dublin or the NSO or, you know.
Yeah, they want to hear
Belfast,
like an
you know.
Italian name, don't they, conducting them?
When I'm here, I'm kind of exotic.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a Northside Dubliner in Cologne. Is
Yeah,
actually
Dave's not
an
doing any
exotic
exoticism.
animal.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a
Exactly,
completely different
yeah.
thing. So like
Isn't it mad?
The fish out of water is like a good thing for me, you know. And
Yeah,
I
it's fun
possibly,
though, isn't it?
like in many ways, like both the orchestra and the audience maybe get a slightly more authentic Dublin David Brophy than people
Exactly,
do in
yeah.
Ireland, you know,
Because you subconsciously play up to it a little bit, don't you?
you kind of go, well,
Or you have a freedom of expression
in a weird
with it.
way. When you're among the Irish, you don't necessarily know, you're not aware of your Irishness, but when you're not,
Exactly.
you kind of go, oh my God, shit, I really am Irish. That's a very Irish thing to say. And I find myself saying that when I say things to the orchestra and you can see them laughing, I'm going, well, that, like, okay, oh, I know why they're laughing. It's because I'm Irish.
It is, man. It really
different,
is.
you know, like, so.
I feel like Irish people work in Cologne. I don't know how much you've got to know the city or get the feel for it, but like I've always said, I don't know if I'm not mad about any other German city in the way that I am about Cologne. I really love Cologne. It took me a while to get into it, but it feels like home. It feels like I always compare it to cities where like Belfast or Manchester or Glasgow, these like port working class towns.
I agree.
Cologne's got that vibe about it.
I agree.
How well have you got to know it so far?
I probably not as well as I should. I've been lucky because I've got some of the people in the orchestra have taken me to see the hot joints in Cologne and to go to different places.
You've obviously been having a bit of couch and tried the kneipas and all that.
I've done all that, yeah. And
Classics.
so
Anything for Carnival yet? Have you done
I've been here for Carnival, and I think I might be in February for Carnival, maybe next year, potentially here. So, but I'm told all about Carnival.
Oh man, you have to get over for it. It's wild.
But
it's great crack.
Norbert, our second trombone, he was very kind and took me out cycling. So we went
really?
cycling
Okay,
around,
so you got to see it a bit.
So we got to see a bit, which is great, you know. So, but I keep meaning to come here, do a week's work, and stay for a week, and then just be a tourist for a week, get the vibe of the city, you know, which I don't kind of quite get as much because I have to rush back to something. And
I know.
So it's a busy life.
But Cologne's it's a city worth doing it, and to be fair, you really do. It's got a lovely vibe about it.
I really like it. Anything I've seen so far, I really am, and I do feel it is a home from home actually straight away. So when you say that, like, it does remind me of Dublin in the 1990s.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah.
Not so much Dublin now, which is a very different place, I think. You know, but it's actually like the vibe in Belfast now. I think is very close to Cologne.
I
current
find
vibe
that entirely.
Belfast,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yes,
you know,
entirely.
So I'm enjoying it. Yeah.
You haven't learned any Kölsch yet, have you? Picked up a few words in Kölsch? No.
I haven't what?
Kölsch, the language, the dialect to speak here. No.
No.
You probably don't get much involved with it. They have a dialect here. I mean, I don't know any words in Kölsch. It's somewhere between sort of Dutch and German.
Okay, so
but you'll pick it up more in Carnival when you're around Carnival. All the Carnival bands, they sing in Kölsch, not German.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have done a project with a Carnival band yet, but
there has been a conversation about that.
Yeah. Yeah, like I mean, man, that's the beating heart of the city is Carnival music.
I said it's suddenly very Dublin there, Gareth. The bleeding.
I know.
It's the bleeding beating heart.
I didn't even say bleeding, man. I have to ask you a bit about flute playing at least because it is a flute podcast. I don't even know what I want to ask you, but I'm assuming just for my own personal enjoyment. Have you conducted the likes of? I'm assuming you've done L'Après-Midi, you've done Daphnis and Chloe and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay, L'Après-Midi. Can I ask you straight away? Do you conduct the solo?
No.
Okay. Just
go.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I've
always been down to ask a conductor this question.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I've done it a couple of times before. No, I don't think so. And I think, I suppose when you study a score and you come in, like when I was younger, I would have come in with, you know, an interpretation.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Yes,
I would have sat at home and I would have had interpretation. But that piece that, like, it's like, I think that opening flute solo is like a seed that you plant.
That's a very poetic way of putting it.
And you know, sometimes I've heard the solo played so many different. And every time you hear it, it's like it's played differently. You know.
But that's funny. You're hearing it. You're not conducting. You're just hearing it. Then
and you
You're
just
along for
kind of
the
go.
ride.
If you really listen to what the colors, because there's so much because of the register it's in. And the flute, there's so much room to color darkly and maybe take something a little bit brighter and to change colors in some of the long notes. And if you really listen to like like Marianne, a fantastic player.
Yeah.
When you listen to someone play that opening, so you kind of go, there's a whole world in that thing. And I say, well, I actually don't need to know anything else except just take that organically through the next passage. And the horn solo and the harper comes in, like everything that comes in afterwards. So I think, why would I do it? I can't understand why I would do that. That's
okay.
Like, no,
so I've always been wondering about that. Is there any specific challenges actually when I'm on it with conducting flute players that you find like are universal maybe?
The one thing is just the one thing I'm aware of is kind of balance and stages, and actually weirdly in the same ways as I said earlier on, like orchestras feel differently under my hands. Stages feel differently.
Okay.
With orchestras. Yeah. So here in the von Bismarck Saal, in the Funkhaus, I think the middle of our stage is a little bit of a woolly part of the stage in terms of projection. Yeah. And that's where the woodwinds sit. Yeah. And I know when I go out, sometimes in rehearsal I go out and have a listen, and I kind of go, God, the woods are just not as present. You know? And actually I do think in the National Concert Hall in Dublin, it's a similar issue actually.
It's often an issue, to be honest.
And just kind of go, and then you get to a hall where you can really hear it. So in the Philharmonie here, I think it's so vivid. Yeah. The woodwind. Yeah. Just the way the stage is built and so I've gone to concerts here and you kind of go, there they are, you know? Yeah. So that one of the challenges is that bottom octave of the register, and the way it's written around, you just can very easily lose balance wise. Yeah. And then if you've got somebody, then you say to a player, say a flautist, you say, okay, can you give a little bit more down there? You know that well. If they use so much more air, they need to breathe somewhere else in that phrase. Potentially, it's going to use so much air to give more. So I'm always kind of aware of how the balance is there. So you try to accompany. Sometimes you look at a player and you go, they want to go here. So I go a bit. So let's go. Because they're going, let's go. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you look at a player and say, no, they want to linger a bit there. So it goes back to feel.
And that's all back to feel as well. Because you have to get to know the players a little bit in that sense to sort of work how they're going to do it. Feel.
If you look at someone and you can tell in their eyes they want to go, or they just how they turn the instrument if they lift something, even for themselves, you know. Yeah. If you subtly take the little I love the little signals.
That's the most poetic bit of it, yeah.
Yeah, just because players all give you, but how they look at you. I remember I did Rite of Spring in London many years ago. I did the reduced version of Rite of Spring with the Royal Ballet Sinfonia. And so there's only 4 horns in the reduced version. And it's a sanction by Boosey and Hawkes and by the estate. And on the second night, it was in Sadler's Wells. Yeah. So it was fully staged. And on the second night, there's a part where the French horns have a quick change where the mute goes in.
Okay.
And so they have to have their mutes tied around their wrist because they won't have time to bend down to get the mute and put it back into bed. It's that quick. So I looked, and there's a little gap before the French horns play, and I looked over at the horns, and the 4th horn player, his eyes opened wider. Okay. And I saw my brain went, something's wrong over there.
He's dropped the mute or something?
And so he disappeared, and he went to I said, I know what's happened here, and I waited for him. And the stage waited because it was only like a second. Yeah. Bent down, got the mute, came back up, and we played on. He looked at me, and you could see him smiling in his eyes, you know, like. And he said to me afterwards, he just said, "How did you know?" Yeah. And I said, "Your eyes widened about 2 millimeters in panic." And I looked at this guy's not happy. Something's gone wrong. And that awareness of little looks and little things, that's what I like. That's
great, though.
That's why I like that. And when you can get that, then I feel I'm really connected to the players. And you can tell just from looking, from an eye, from the sweat, from how hot they look. Yeah. From you can just tell straight away the vibe and kind of go, right, they need me to do this, they need me to do that. So can we find a way to help them? You know?
It's such a human experience, isn't it, as well?
For me, it's like I have a whole life in a corporate world where I talk about leadership. I talk about leadership without words. Yeah. So how we lead people, how we work with people without talking. Yeah. And those unwritten, those unsaid things, body language, and little subtle things, how someone looks at you, you know, they are my bread and butter. Yeah. And if I don't engage with those things, I can't conduct. I just can't.
And what about then, just when I'm thinking of that then, when you get these incredible soloists coming in, do you ever get moments where you got someone up beside you and just thinking, that's fucking great? I got nothing to say, man. You're just like, you're in awe. You're just like, man, like you've conducted with Jimmy, haven't you?
Yeah, I've worked with Jimmy. Like Jimmy's quite extraordinary, and
You must have said to go, yeah.
the first time worked with Jimmy, and obviously we did Danny Boy with Jimmy,
Yeah.
and
Even when he plays
was
Danny Boy,
so
like, you're
nice.
Like melts.
He was
when
so
you
good
hear
to me. Yeah, he was amazing to listen to. But you could tell he wanted to move on. He just moves. He just goes, and you kind of go, right, wake up.
Yeah.
Here, But I've worked I did think I luckily worked with Lang Lang.
Oh, wow, okay.
And he came to Dublin. I
He
worked
is
with the Concert
incredible.
Orchestra, and I remember he came into Studio One.
I think I remember that. When was that?
And maybe it's 10 years ago.
Yeah,
maybe more.
I
Maybe
feel I remember that being in the news or
11
something.
or 12 years, yeah. So he came to Dublin and did the Beethoven Emperor Concerto with us. And he came in, I remember going, you know what I remember most about that is that the Concert Orchestra, who like, it's a big gig if you got Lang Lang, and I noticed when he started playing, all of the eyes of the orchestra were on top of me more than ever they were. Ever.
Really? Okay.
And I'm going, they're all really looking at me. Why are they all looking at me so much? And it was a case that, if we mess up here, we want to make sure it's your fault. If we're not with them, we want to make sure it's your fault. It's not our fault. So there was that. I remember thinking, you can see it now. I can see players who would always look at you peripherally, but like really, I felt eyes on me a lot that time. I said, "Okay, no pressure here, bro." And
because Lang Lang's in the house, man.
But he was amazing.
People be talking about you.
And I remember his mother was there. She sat up on the little balcony in Studio One.
Right.
And then the next day, we did the sound check in the National Concert Hall. And I said to him afterwards, I said, just let's do it really differently tonight.
Yeah.
And there was, there's parts when he has those multiple trills up high. And he's a little nachschlag at the end. I'm looking and going, when is he going to turn the end of this trill? Looking back at him, and he was kind of smiling at me. I might do it now. No, I'll do it now. So there was a little bit of play. And I remember the concert. We had such a good time at the concert, And then his mother came to me afterwards and said, that was so different to the rehearsal. It was so organic and real. And I was kind of going, well, that's the best compliment you can have. Really.
It is. So that's why we go to concerts as well. You want that organicness.
Fresh.
You want the... Yeah. That's class. Man, I have so many questions I wanted to ask you, but we've talked for a lot, and I have a normal list of fun questions to ask at the end, and we're just going to have to get to them.
Give me a fun question.
Now, again, this is a Flute podcast, so I don't even know if I can ask you the first question. It's going to work it up. Yeah, I imagine I can. Do you have a favourite flute concerto? Have you conducted a flute concerto before?
Yeah, I've done the proper Mozart, the G major, and then the erroneous D major, which is an oboe concerto.
It sounds better on flute, but anyway.
It sounds better than the flute. Flute concerto. I do like Nielsen.
Really? Have you conducted it?
Yeah, I've conducted Nielsen.
Do you remember who was playing?
I can't remember who it was. It might have been.
Was it in Dublin?
I think it might have been with the Ulster Orchestra, but Nielsen. I did Nielsen.
Oh,
with some young concerto competition or something. I don't know what it was.
I think I know what you're talking about. It wasn't. That wasn't Emer playing, was it? Emer McGill?
I don't know who it was.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I do like Nielsen a lot. Actually.
It's cracking.
But I do like them. I do like the Mozart G and D. I do like both of them as well.
Okay.
So
Nielsen's a good answer. Yeah, I can take that.
Nielsen.
Do you remember the first classical music album that you bought?
I bought the first. Yes, the first one I bought was a cassette, and it was, would you believe, the Four Seasons. And it was with the English Chamber Orchestra, and Kenneth Solito, I think was his name, was the fiddle player. But I know that my dad, there was no real music in my house growing up.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, my folks are not musicians.
Interesting. Okay.
And my dad was, ironically, my mum and dad, they loved James Last.
Okay.
Which is like such a German thing.
Yeah, very.
But every time he would go to Dublin, they would just go to see him.
Okay.
They'd go see him in the RDS or go wherever he was, And so we had James Last albums at home, but my dad did buy. At the beginning of like in January after Christmas, you've got these periodicals where you collect something for the next 12 months, a magazine,
Yeah.
So there was one on Beethoven symphonies like back in the 1970s, and my dad saw the ad and he heard bum 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 bum, and he said, "Oh, I love that piece."
Yeah.
And so he bought that magazine with the free album with it. And that was at home. I remember playing that like as a disc and as a vinyl disc. And but the first one I bought was first classical album was Four Seasons. Yeah.
Well, the next one I want to ask is, do you remember your first album in general, first record you got in general? What kind of stuff were you listening to?
I think the first album I bought was maybe Brothers in Arms. Dire Straits.
Okay.
That was the first one I bought.
Yeah.
I think.
I was expecting some great answers for you on this. Yeah, I feel like if you're going to conduct this kind of orchestra, you need to have a good taste in music in general.
So, I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's good. I think a wide taste.
There we are.
But I was a big fan of like Intua Nua and Leslie Dowdall. who were
Okay.
like kind of Celt rock kind of
Yeah.
thing that went on,
Yeah, yeah.
you know. And I got the Pogues, and I was into Madness as well.
Man, it's a
Kind
class.
of
Yeah,
ska.
they are class.
Very, very. I was a very 80s Northside kind
Yeah,
of kid.
exactly,
You know,
yeah.
kind of kid, you know. So, but yeah, so I bought all those.
Dire Straits was the first one, yeah.
Dire Straits. I think Dire Straits is the first one. You know.
Are you a fan of a lot of the current Irish artists coming out the
I
minute?
have to say, I've
you listen
only
to it?
recently listened to CMAT, and
CMAT's class,
and
though.
so impressive.
Yeah, she's rocking.
But like, apart from how brilliant the words are, and her sense of commentary, and her sense of
Social commentary, yeah.
social commentary, and how actually it's not just her, it's her generation. Look,
It is.
Ireland is in such a good. We are so lucky with
Man,
that
I've said this
generation.
so many times that we're so lucky.
Because I feel my generation is kind of lost because I kind of feel we ended up getting, in inverted commas, wealth, but we either didn't know what to do with it, we
it
don't
was
regard it
Celtic
as
Tiger,
wealth and
yeah.
all that. And so I think my generation kind of feels a little bit lost in Ireland. But actually,
Yeah.
my two sons, they're 18 and 21, so they're of kind of CMAT's generation.
Yeah.
And they are way ahead in evolutionary terms than I will ever be.
Okay.
They're miles ahead of me.
Yeah.
So when I think of young people, and I don't think Ireland has necessarily treated young people particularly well in the past couple of decades, how difficult it is to rent, to buy a house, to work,
sure
and
that's
to
why we
live in
all
Dublin.
leave, yeah.
It's like how everyone leaves. I don't think that's a good way to treat young people, actually. I
Yeah.
don't think that at all. But despite that, they are so on it. The young people
Yeah.
in Ireland are. So I'm actually really excited to hit my kind of 70s and 80s and see the type of
What comes up
Ireland
next.
that generation will
Yeah.
produce for us. But apart from seeing Matt's
Ireland's having its
amazing
real moment.
words, her use of form. So like where bridges happen and verses and,
Yeah.
and choruses happen and how long
That's
they
true,
are.
it's a good point,
And
yeah.
also her orchestration in the more general
Yeah.
sense, and the colours and the riffs. So inventive.
gorgeous, man.
For the first time I listened to it, I completely within 10 seconds I was drawn in.
I was not expecting you to say
Really
Seaman, yeah.
grabbed it. Really,
fantastic,
really
yeah.
grabbed it. So I'm hugely impressed with her.
Yeah, and again, as you said, just one of there's so many great young Irish bands and artists popping up at the minute. We're so
Stunning,
like it's
yeah.
cool to be Irish again, which for a
Yeah.
while it wasn't. Like I feel it was always some kind of way to be cool, but it's really cool. You've got Kneecap, you've got Mary
Kneecap.
Wallopers, you've got
Yeah.
like Fontaine's DC. There's all
Yeah.
these great
They're
Irish artists out
amazing,
doing
yeah.
amazing stuff.
And then what Kneecap are doing for the Irish language is they're doing
Oh, it's
way
incredible.
more than decades of departments of education and stuff
Exactly,
for the Irish
yeah.
language. And when you think of that, and I love the fact that what they're doing what they're doing for the Irish language from Northern Ireland.
Exactly.
That's a
yeah.
stunning thing, you know. And I also think,
And then
you
we're giving
know,
this our moment.
yeah, it's and also I think also there's a swagger in Northern Ireland
There
that
is.
that isn't in the Republic, because I know, you know,
Certainly in
you
Belfast,
talk about your
yeah.
heritage, you talk about your Protestant heritage and flute bands and that, you know. I think there's a real swagger among Protestant communities in Belfast for Irish language and GAA as
There
well.
is, yeah.
It's stunning, and it's actually, I'm kind of
It's a good point,
I
yeah.
look to Northern Ireland and go, there's leadership.
yeah.
Ever there was a community leading the island, it's in Northern
Yeah,
Ireland.
that's true.
It's not in the Republic.
Yeah.
I don't see it in the Republic, apart from the younger generation. But there's a confidence and swagger in Belfast. I'm in Belfast.
There
I'm
is.
in Belfast in 2 weeks' time.
I were saying,
I'm
yeah.
there. I'm in Belfast probably every 2 or 3 months with the
Yeah.
Ulster Orchestra. And every time I go up, I go, this place
There's
has
a vibe about it at the
swagger,
minute, it
a
really
vibe
has it.
about it, which is really beautiful.
Swagger is a great word as well.
It's
It's
a
something that I
confidence.
find there is.
Confidence, you know, you walk around the Cathedral Quarter in Belfast now, and you walk anywhere in the city, you kind of go, wow, what a city.
Man, I know. Like I feel so at home when I go back to that, because when I'm in Germany, I feel like sometimes that can be a bit much for a lot of people. Like it clashes with German culture quite easily.
Yeah, yeah.
And my girlfriend, she's from Georgia, and when she came back to Belfast for the first time, she was like, "You're all like that here. You're all just like."
it's so
I was like,
cool.
"Yeah." In Germany, I feel like I'm going mad sometimes. I can't express this confidence and this swagger that I want to have.
Yeah.
Belfast, I'm nothing. You see the way people hold themselves in Belfast.
I mean, for somebody who's gone to Belfast 25 years, I just think it's the place to be on the island now.
Really?
I really believe that now, because I feel Dublin.
great.
I go
Dublin's
to
class, so I
Dublin.
adore
Yeah, but I
Dublin.
feel Dublin for me is too stressful. It's full of stressful people trying to earn a lot of money so they can pay ridiculous rent.
That's
and ridiculous
true,
thing.
yeah.
And that is not in Belfast. And I just think that sense of ease and that sense of when you get to Belfast, you can breathe. Whereas in Dublin, I feel, there's stress in the air in Dublin. I feel the
Maybe that's
stress
'cause
in
you're
the
a
air in
Dubliner,
Dublin.
though.
Maybe I'm too close, and you
Yeah.
know, it's like that old Groucho Marx phrase, I'd never want to be a member of a club that would have me as a member.
Yeah, that's a great one.
So,
yeah.
but
Man, I must say
but
Dublin's
Belfast is
happening at the
really.
minute, but-
I think that's a great thing.
Glad to
you know?
hear. Okay, next question. If you had to sing karaoke, what would you do? I feel like you're a karaoke man. I feel like I wouldn't have to ask you twice.
Actually, I mean, I remember actually I did.
A couple of great karaoke bars here, by the way. but
I
we'll-
did karaoke, and the National Symphony Orchestra went on tour to America in the year after 9/11, so it would have been 2022.
Aye.
So 2002.
Yeah.
So 9/11 was September 2001.
Yep.
So I think the following March we went on a 2-week tour.
Okay.
And we started like in West Palm Beach in Florida.
Over Paddy's Day, I'm assuming then, is it?
It was, yeah, it was. I don't know whether it was exactly Paddy's Day. And we just did 2 weeks up the East Coast, and we ended up in New York at the Lincoln Center. And somewhere, I think maybe like in South Carolina, somewhere like that, you know. Or maybe Charlotte, North Carolina. I think we in Charlotte. We went as a group. A pile of us went to a karaoke bar.
Okay.
And I remember singing. I really remember singing. I sang "Uptown Girl," Billy Joel, which is actually not an easy song to sing. But
but Westlife covered it and they did a good job.
So and then, but there was. I remember very clearly. And there was quite a lot of. How do I describe the time? We went into. I remember going into the loo. And there was mats in the urinal, pee mats in the urinal that had pictures of Osama bin Laden on them. I'm kind of going, okay, so I know where I am now.
Yeah.
You know? And so now we know exactly where. And there was a very freedom fries time. It was French fries, you know, it was very freedom fries time was going on. And then I remember there was a particular member of the National Symphony Orchestra, who I won't mention, who didn't sing, but he was a very good mimic.
Okay.
And so he took the microphone for the karaoke and he decided to mimic George W. Bush. Oh, what a bad idea. There was holy war in the bar. We were kicked out.
Seriously, it
was nearly fisticuffs. We literally had to clear the bar within 2 minutes. It was mental, like, you know, it was kind of crazy. That's my last karaoke experience. So I'll probably do Uptown Girl. That's my song.
Okay, well, there's a couple of great ones in Cologne as well. There's a great one down here called Mackey's. Have you ever come across it?
Okay.
It's a gay Vietnamese karaoke bar.
I want to go to a gay Vietnamese karaoke bar. Well, that's why I need that in my life. Where is it?
See, now this is that's the golden question, because I feel like it only opens its doors when you need it to. It exists purely in my mind.
A gay Vietnamese karaoke
It'll
night.
appear in front of you.
It'll be
there. It'll be there when you least expect it. I've got my birthday there in a couple of weeks. It's great, and it's open to. Well, it's open whatever time you want it to be open till. And it's about the size of this room. It is brilliant. That's my top tip for you. Okay, last 2 questions. If you could have a drink with any musician alive or dead, who would you have a drink with? It is a tough question, I know.
Any musician alive or dead? I think Haydn.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Why Haydn? I'm surprised in that one though.
Probably, I think of all the composers, I think the most misunderstood in some ways, I think, and was revolutionary. As much we always think as Beethoven has been the revolutionary composer, and we think that Beethoven was the first person to compose like monothematic symphonies, so the Beethoven Fifth Symphony, which has the same theme in every movement. Haydn was doing that before Beethoven. So, and I think also the fact that he wrote, we know of 106 symphonies, but it's probably about 140. There's loads of them.
I've heard,
he's kind of hard. We end up playing the nicknamed ones, which are not necessarily the best ones, like the Military or the Surprise or that, you know. So I think he's a fascinating composer to me. And him, I'd say, and then Shostakovich.
Okay, Shostakovich.
I would have a lot of questions for Shostakovich, I think.
Yeah, especially where the time he was living.
And how did he live a life like that?
Yeah.
I mean, it just must have been horrific.
I mean, Haydn, I don't know much about him as a person, but I've always found there's obviously a lot of parallels drawn between him and Mozart. I always feel like Haydn's music was just a bit more human. It was something a bit more warm.
Certainly jocular and humour. But I also think he played with form in a way that was really revolutionary. So that like a transition, not to get too technical, but in sonata form, like, you know, at the end of an exposition and going into development section, when it will come back to the recap, he would kind of do things. You go bim bum 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 bim bum 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 bim bum 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 bim bum, and it could go on for you don't know how long it'd be.
With that a little bit.
And also I've conducted Haydn. And I did Haydn 46, I think, symphony with the NSO last year, a year before, and the players made mistakes in the rehearsals because we thought it was this and it wasn't.
Yeah, okay.
And it's great that
is great though.
Over 200 years after he died, like whatever, 225 years after, 15 years, he's still fooling us.
Yeah, and
I kind of go, that's. Like, I think music is like time travel, and we can travel back to the early 1800s or late 1700s and still be fooled by that composer. I think it's kind of an amazing
you've told me now as well. I might have a pint with Haydn if the chance comes up. Well, the very last question, do you have a favourite drink? And it can be alcoholic or non-alcoholic. Are you a Guinness man?
I am partial to a pint of Guinness.
Yeah.
I'm
Only
gonna do
Guinness,
it.
or do you do the Beamish and the Murphys and all that? You're Dublin.
So yeah, well,
Suppose we
actually,
Dubs
when
are
I'm
all
in
Guinness.
Cork, I would kind of have Beamish and Murphys because it's brewed
Beamish
down
man,
there, you know. So but both of my sons are utter committed Guinness drinkers. Actually,
Really?
in a
Yeah.
way that, like, you know, and here in Cologne, there's some of the orchestra. Like, I took my first week of the orchestra. I said, I want to bring you out for a drink,
Yeah.
just like to wet
And
the
they all took you to
to wet the
Guinness.
baby's head. And I said, we'd bring her for a pint of Guinness. And we went to the Jameson
Yeah.
and we had an afternoon. We opened a tab. I opened a tab and we just had a few drinks. But they're all obsessed with splitting the G. And
Man, I
it's
know.
like, it's a huge. And at one stage, Alberto, who's our co-leader in the orchestra, he
Yeah.
came down to. He called me off the stand one day and he pointed something in the music. And it was letter G in his music, and he had drawn a line through the G.
Fuck off.
Yeah,
That's
in a
great.
pencil. And he says, I split the G. And I go, you guys
Fuck
are
off.
obsessed. It's like
That's
mental.
class.
It's kind of
That's
mental.
great.
Like, you know, that level, like that cultural, iconic drink that ends up in the middle of rehearsal.
That's mad.
mental,
I hope
like,
that
so,
stays in the
yeah.
score as well for generations to discover that.
generations to discover
Let's see
that,
what does he mean by that?
Extraordinary. It's an extraordinary
pint.
thing. Yeah.
Class. Well, I've got nothing else to ask him. We've been talking away over an hour here, so this has been brilliant. Normally, I ask my guests if they want to plug anything or promote anything or tell people where to go. Have you got anything you want to talk about? No, or
No.
plug.
Try to be happy.
Beautiful.
I want to plug that
That's
because
as good as it gets. Then
we need that. We need that in our world. We need
gorgeous
happy people.
Well, thank you very much, mate. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Gareth. Yeah, it's been great. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you everybody for listening, and I will catch you all next week. Then, cheerio.